This is my new 4K video editing PC, fully contained inside the 3.4-liter Skyreach S4 Tiny, capable of ultra-smooth 4K playback and scrubbing in Premiere Pro, and full resolution, no proxies. The Skyreach 4 Tiny is the smallest case I've built in. Hell, it's smaller than most ATX power supplies. With that size, you're limited to a STX or ITX motherboard, tiny ATX power supplies, and integrated graphics. The S4 Tiny is CNC machined and laser cut with slanted ventilated panels, bead blasted and anodized, adding to the hyper matte silver color and durability. The front panel gives you an easy way to customize your unit, plus an assortment of in-store add-ons and community-created modifications. On the rear, 3 cutouts: the motherboard cutout, the only area for I/O and connectivity, 2 smaller cutouts for the power switch and barrel-style AC power cable. To access the case, 4 screws on each side release the enclosure, giving light to the super compact layout inside. Our 4K editing PC is Intel-based, utilizing the Intel Core Ultra 265K's advantage in hardware acceleration with their quick sync technology. This was an advantage long held by Intel until NVIDIA's recent Blackwell GPU launch. I use extremely compressed 422 HEVC 10-bit footage for my Canon R8 mirrorless cameras. This gives me extremely small file sizes, but can be stressing even on high-end hardware. It's especially taxing on AMD-based systems, which are currently limited to the 420 chroma sampling for their HEVC 10-bit decoding. The 422 sampling provides more chroma resolution over 420. It's not required by any means, it's just my current workflow. The 265K can boost close to 250 watts, which is incredibly hot for our case and compatible CPU air cooler. With the unlocked 265K, we can edit the power limits with a Z-series motherboard. For that, Gigabyte sent out their Z890 ARS Ultra motherboard. The Z890 ARS Ultra is an ITX motherboard featuring a LGA 1851 socket with PCIe 5.0 support for memory and dedicated graphics. On the front, we have a PCIe 5.0 M.2 slot and a Gen 4 slot on the rear. Rear connectivity is somewhat bittersweet, with one Thunderbolt 4 port being the only USB Type-C port on the entire board, falling behind Asus and MSI. The lack of a clear CMOS button taking another point away for small form factor enthusiasts, as you'll need to reach back into your case to clear the CMOS. The biggest advantage for me is the DisplayPort 2.1, the only Z-series ITX motherboard that offers it. It does use fewer but higher end power phases with a 8.1.2 configuration. The design of the board is tasteful and minimal with some RGB over the VRM shroud. I went with 64 GB of DDR5 memory, clocked at 64 mega transfers with a cache latency of 32. These are the G.Skill Ripjaws S5. I popped these out of their original heat spreaders and into these AlphaCool Liquid Cool modules. This was done for aesthetic purposes as the original spreaders were showing signs of wear. 64 GB will give me enough headroom as I like to work with multiple projects open in Premiere Pro, usually to recycle footage. I used two 2TB Oracle IG740 Pro SSDs. These are Gen 4 drives delivering adequate performance. Our main drive running Windows is installed on the front passively cooled slot. The second drive storing active projects is installed on the rear uncooled slot. For the cooler, we elected to use the Thermalright AXP90 X47 full copper. At 32mm thick, the heatsink has 4 6mm heat pipes, and the cooler is incredibly dense. We swapped the unsightly stock fan for the Noctua NF8914HS Chromax fan. The orange and red color scheme is just a very conflicting combination in my opinion. This cooler secures from the back of the motherboard with 4 bolts. Before we seat our motherboard, we need to install the LED power switch and power cable adapter. Next, we need power. HDPlex sent me their super compact ATX power unit, the fanless 250 watt gallium nitride power supply. A true feat of engineering, helping to keep our ambient noise levels down, where 250 watts of power is more than we'll need, as I plan to cap the CPU at 90 watts. It does include cables, a PCIe cable, a short and long 24-pin cable, and an EPS cable for the CPU. The holes on the power unit lines up with the PSU bracket perfectly. I elected to use the shorter 24-pin cable to keep the cable clutter to a minimum, but it does require more force to get the power unit seated properly. Cable management was really simple, as the PSU helps route the cables to the appropriate side of the chassis. To finish off the build, I have a custom hardwood bezel, which looks really beautiful. I hand tighten the screws to not damage the finish. I'm not sure what type of wood this is, but they do offer 3 different versions on the website. The performance is really impressive, with a few tweaks to the power limits in the BIOS, limiting P1 to 70 watts and boost P2 to 90 watts. Our system runs extremely cool for its size, idling in the mid to high 40s, up to low to mid 70s when scrubbing and rendering in Premiere Pro. Playback and scrubbing is really smooth, and full resolution scrubbing is easy, and we get a slightly snappier experience in half resolution. I don't use heavy effects in my workflow, but I do use warp stabilizer for shaky footage, even when using a slider. Temperatures hang around 70 to 80 degrees, depending on the length of the clip, and it takes slightly longer than if I were using a dedicated GPU. I've allowed Premiere Pro to use all but 10 GB of memory of the 64 installed. With heavy scrubbing across the timeline, it hits 50 GB easily. When rendering, we're using around 25 GB of memory, and iGPU is doing moderate to heavy decoding, with temperatures hanging around 70 degrees. The task was completed in 6 to 7 minutes and thermal spiked to the mid-70s, a really good result seeing that our Noctua fan is on a conservative curve, fluctuating between 40 and 60% depending on the thermals. Our noise levels was below 40 decibels from a seated position. Fan turbulence isn't something I've observed. The fan does max out our CPU clearance, but the slanted cutouts seem large enough to avoid that turbulence. I'm really impressed with the S4T. Not only is it made extremely well, it's the definition of portable and travel friendly. This can fit in any normal sized backpack with no issues. There's also a really good and active community offering support and ideas. My 4K machine is optimized well and thermals and noise far exceed my expectations. However, I do have to address the cost of this build. With the case, CPU, motherboard, memory, PSU, and storage, this build costs around $2,600 before tax and shipping. That's easily the cost of a mid-range gaming PC with a dedicated GPU. Now, you don't need 64 GB of memory, 4 TB of storage, or a Z-series motherboard to make this build viable. You can slice nearly $1,000 by going with 32 GB of memory and 2 TB of storage. I am grateful and fortunate enough to have many of these parts provided by NFC, Gigabyte, Oracle, and HDPlex. You can pick up the Skyreach S4T and the accessories I have for about $300 US, along with the HDPlex 250 watt gallium nitride power supply for $145 US. Recently, NFC announced the new Skyreach S5 Mini in collaboration with Encase, capable of populating a dual slot small form factor ready card like the 5080 or 5090 Founders Edition, which would join the growing list of console style ITX cases. Stay tuned and subscribe to see my coverage on that when it releases. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.